Hey, it's Mr. J Builds, and I am happy to say that it is finally time to start building this beast of a ship. You'll see over here that I have a bunch of Lego parts organized on my desk, and of course I do have more parts over here on this side. So altogether this is about 3,300 parts. It's quite a lot. It was hard to fit it all on the desk and also have a space to build and record. But essentially this is just the first half of deck one. It's the bow section. Like I said, it's about 3,300 parts. And just to give you an idea of what's left after this, there's still, I think, 17 or 18 more modules. And that's what all these parts are over here. That's roughly about 42,000 parts. I am still waiting on more to come in to finish this thing. But there's just a couple stragglers left and I was getting impatient. I was like, you know what? It's time to start building. I have all this stuff to do deck one anyway, so let's get started. On that note, aside from the parts setup here, I do have, as I showed earlier, this picture of the yacht on screen. I have a Bricklink Studio open, ready to go if I need to make any changes to the instructions on the fly. And of course, over here on that screen, I have the instructions ready to go on step one. And yes, I'm going to record everything. So with that being said, let's get started. Okay, I am happy to say that this section is finished. Just a reminder, this is section 1 of module 1. So module 1's the whole front bow deck 1. It does have 4 sections to it. But anyways, the build went excellently. The good news is I didn't have to change anything during the build process. So the build is solid, at least for this section. I did have to make a couple changes to the instructions, but very minor changes just to help the ease of building process. But no changes to the design itself had to be made, which I'm super happy about. Did have a few leftover parts here. These are just basically extra parts I would have thrown in the bag just to be safe, but might have overcompensated. Speaking of overcompensation, this thing is solid. I mean, it's like a brick, just a big old brick. Super sturdy, very strong. I might have overbuilt it, to be honest, but that's not a bad thing. I was worried about structural integrity, but I think we're gonna be fine. I mean, just look at these stands here. The stands themselves are built right into the model with Technic frame, and like they are strong. Like I'm trying to shake them right now, get them loose, and they are just very sturdy and strong. And I'm happy to say, no sag or anything, so that's good. So yeah, on that note, let's get started on section 2. Okay, section 2 is finished, and look at that. Look at those lines. Nice and smooth. Everything worked out for the most part. I did have to make a few minor changes to how these connect. I did have to make quite a few changes to the instructions just to make the building process smooth, but for the most part, I'd say 98% worked out the way it was supposed to, and I'm very happy with the result. There is one thing though that I'm not super happy with. This right here, this door. So this is where the tender garage is going to be. Right here though, this door does open up, no problem, which is great. It opens up nice and smooth, but the problem is you have to put it up at that angle for it to stay. If you put it right here, which is where it would actually be on a real ship, it falls back down. So I need to find a way to basically make this so it'll stay up. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do that or what type of device or mechanism I could make to do that, but if anyone has any suggestions, please let me know. I'm going to mess around with it, but that is going to bother me. I mean, technically this still works because, you know, you can just leave it up like that, but I would like it where you can, you know, it can go to there and then it would still stay up. So that's one thing. Other than that though, I am happy to say that all these angles worked out perfectly. I was really nervous about them. If my connection points, like you can see a connection point right there. There's one right there. There's another one right there. I was worried that they weren't going to work out, but surprisingly, everything in that department worked out excellently. And yeah, look at the floors. Everything looks good. So you can see that hull section again. Nice and smooth looking. I love it. Love the way it turned out. Very happy with it. So hopefully from here, those were the most challenging things I was worried about. Was the hull section and this guy, at least for the bow. So I'm pretty confident that next section should go pretty smooth. I mean, I don't want to jinx it, we'll see. But since I've said everything I need to say about this, and I'm excited to get to the third section, let's get going on that right now. All right, section 3 is finished. I'm happy to say that it's not going to require any changes. There's a few minor things in the instructions I'll have to change, but that's to be expected as usual. As far as the build goes though itself, everything worked out very well. As you can see, we have the crew bathrooms, got a crew cabin right there. This corridor here, got the crew mess, main stairwell, and of course right here we have the tender garage. You know, a couple surfboards on the wall. We got this little tender here, which fits in there quite nicely. Oh yeah, we got a little crane right here, which can move. I didn't know if that was gonna work and everything, but it can move, it can swivel. And we have the beginnings of the some guest rooms here. The build process went very well. And like I said, super happy that it's not going to need any changes. Yeah, look at this, I'm gonna shake it. Very strong, very happy about that. Can pick it up, one handle, oh man, that's heavy. Yeah, but yeah, it's nice and sturdy, nice and strong. Super pumped about that. It's working out very well. We only have one more section to go, and then we are finished with deck 1, bow section 1. So with that being said, let's go ahead and finish this thing up. All right, section 4 of module 1 is now finished, and therefore that means that this whole module is now complete. And to say that I'm satisfied with the results would be kind of an understatement, if I'm being honest with you. Everything turned out very well, at least in my opinion. The curves and the angles, I love the way it looks. The curve here of the bow, love the shaping, turned out very well in my opinion. And I'm happy to say that this whole module required very little changes. For section 4, I had to do a couple minor things, add a couple parts here and there, but for the most part, hardly anything needed to change, which is great to know. As far as the instructions go, naturally section 4, it's going to need some significant changes as well. That's to be expected. So let's take a closer look at some of the things in this module. As before, we have the crew area here, then the tender garage. But now we can see some cabins fully finished. You know, they got their beds, they got a TV on the wall, got their bathroom with a toilet and a sink, shower. They're mirrored, so they're identical. Right here we have the laundry area. I'm happy with how that turned out, like the washers and the dryers. And then of course we have the anchor room. Now as far as the anchors go themselves, I will show you how this mechanism works. So I'll push one of these anchors out here. They're just resting in there. And then you can pull it out like so. They are in a chain. I mean, it's not a super long chain, but it gets the point across. And then using this little knob right here, you can actually reel it back in. So I'll show you that right here. And then once you get to this point, obviously you would use 2 hands, but you kind of just push it back in this little cubby hole there. Come on. There you go. Identical on the other side. And what's great is you can't really pull these out from the outside, so they're kind of locked in there, which I'm happy with. That means once the next module is on top, the anchors aren't going to fall out or anything. You kind of got to open it up to actually get to the anchor mechanisms. And now at the rear of the module, I did want to show you these connection points here. So these, and on this side, you got these ones over here. These will line up with module 2, the stern section, and they actually line up with the modules that go on top as well. And eventually a Technic axle will sit in there and lock everything together like so. Obviously the Technic axle that we'll be using will be much longer, but I just want to show you this so you can see how it works. So yeah, that's how we're going to kind of secure everything together. Speaking of securing everything together, let me show you how sturdy this thing is. All right, let's do the durability test. Let me pick this thing up, shake it around. Oh, should probably take the tender out of there. Just move that over here. Here we go. Yeah, look at this. She's a beast. She's solid. Shake it around. Do some workouts. Sorry, I'm an idiot. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked about how this worked out. All the things I was nervous about, nothing to be worried about. I was worried about all these angles and they all worked out. I was worried about the connection points. They all worked out. So very happy about that. Very satisfied. And the only major thing I need to change is this. Like I said earlier, I want to make that so it can stay there. And I've actually already ordered parts and made a design that I think is going to fix that problem, but I will update that in a future video if I manage to fix it. I would like to know what you think about this module. That's going to wrap it up for this video. The next video is going to be about module 2, which is basically the whole stern section. That one's about 12,000 pieces. I appreciate you guys watching. Let me know what you think. With that being said, I'm Mr. J, and you have a good day. Peace.